Well, the big political story today is from Parliament with the suspension of 4 Congress MPs for storming into the well of the House and carrying protesting placards because the opposition has been demanding a discussion on rising prices. The government says in theory it's ready for that discussion, but wants Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman to come back to reply after she recovers from COVID before that. However, the opposition says any other minister can step in for her, that a discussion on price rise is something that should happen right away. It marks a new low in the already rather bitter relationship between the centre and the opposition. Joining us now, Derek O'Brien, leader of the Trinamool Congress's parliamentary party in the Rajya Sabha. Derek O'Brien, thanks very much for being with us. Your first reactions to the suspension of the MPs. This is now, in a sense, becoming more common to see MPs being suspended this way in what used to be an extreme action earlier.
The reality is that who is stalling Parliament? Is it the government who's stalling Parliament? Or is it the opposition who's stalling Parliament? And who benefits when Parliament is stalled? Throughout the last session of Parliament, the budget session of Parliament, the opposition wanted a discussion on one issue, key issue, and that issue was price rise. I think the Parliament was 20 days plus, not a single issue, no discussion on price rise. This time, same thing. All opposition parties want a discussion on price rise, and the government will do all it takes not to have a discussion on price rise and then spin it to say the opposition is disrupting Parliament. This is the biggest problem. If you give me exactly 1 minute, I'll explain to you here. I've made this simple chart for you today. So we've got government, we've got Parliament. So government is responsible to who? To Parliament. And Parliament is responsible to who? The people. So once the government disrupts Parliament, they are answerable to no one. They are answerable to no one. And this is a crisis in Parliament. It's a crisis which the young people of India have to understand, because Parliament has been made a mockery of day after day, and I'm glad you've given me the opportunity to explain this.
But Derek O'Brien, you know, the government says it's ready for this discussion on rising prices. It just wants the finance minister to recover from COVID and give the reply. May I just ask what's wrong with waiting for her to come back? It will be a few more days. Why not let the business of Parliament continue and then have the discussion?
I can give you about 20 examples when the defense minister of the country is speaking on some other subject in Parliament, where the agriculture minister of the country is speaking on non-agriculture subject. We understand. If somebody has COVID, we are not so irresponsible that we will insist. And I will say this with all responsibility. Do not use COVID also. I'm sure I wish the finance minister well and get well soon. But the government has used the excuse of COVID for the last 2.5 years, not even to allow the media into Parliament. Very, very restrictive media. Just think about what's happening. You're keeping the media out of Parliament. You don't want a discussion. You don't want a discussion on Parliament. And there are some reality check on the numbers. How many questions has the Prime Minister of India answered on the floor of Rajya Sabha in the last 5-6 years? Zero. Zero. How many bills are scrutinized in Parliament? From a number of 65 to 70%, only 12% of bills are scrutinized today in Parliament. By Parliament. These are very, very serious issues. Today what happened? It was unique. When the opposition is protesting in the morning, remember, morning 0 hour and question hour is where we can question the government. So when we are asking for a discussion in Parliament in the morning on price rise, within 90 seconds, Parliament is being adjourned. Adjourned. 11 o'clock, adjourned. 12 o'clock, adjourned. But this afternoon in Rajya Sabha, what happened? What happened in Rajya Sabha? From 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, continuous, the government carried on in spite of slogans. So 27 days in the last session. What do you want MPs to do? You don't want MPs to take posters in. What do you want MPs to do? You are the same government who passed the farm bills. You bulldoze the farm bills. Many opposition parties, like mine, the Trinamool, had asked for our right for a vote. You didn't give us the chance for the vote. What do you want? What do you want? The opposition has to think of different strategies. You want to block the television telecast.
Yeah,
you want to do all this.
But Derek O'Brien,
opposition parties will not sit.
What do you say to taxpayers who throw up their hands in despair, looking at Parliament being disrupted all the time, no real discussion taking place? They're saying it's a waste of money. What are you all doing?
So those taxpayers have to understand, and the taxpayers have a very good point. As far as Mr. Modi and Shah, they don't want Parliament to run. You have a new Parliament building with brick, mortar and aluminium. But your Parliament building has no soul. The heart of democracy every single day. And if this carries on for another a few weeks, and I'm a born optimist, but even for a born optimist like me, I wonder, you have a Parliament building, aluminium, you can have all the fancy gadgets and everything else, absolutely hi-fi, but you are low life. And this from a Prime Minister who came and kissed the steps ceremoniously on the first day. Every single day, I'm saying this with all responsibility, every single day the BJP is slowly killing this great institution. And I humbly appeal to the presiding officers of the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha, please do something. This is the Parliament of India. This is not the Gujarat Gymkhana in Ahmedabad. Please follow the rules, follow the precedents, follow the glorious tradition of this great institution. Don't spoil it. It's a very old saying. You have the numbers in Lok Sabha, you have the numbers in Rajya Sabha. Let the opposition have its say. Government, right. Mr. Modi and Shah, you can have your way.
All right, well...
but if you don't give us our say...
It's the Parliament of India, not the Gujarat Gymkhana.
We'll have
Thanks
to try
for that
and
headline.
Find new ways.
Thank you, Derek O'Brien. But, important points raised by you, yes, certainly. But I think a lot of people will look at what is happening in Parliament with a degree of frustration and hope that there is some way found out of this logjam. It doesn't appear that that's going to happen for the moment. Thanks very much for joining us.